The sound of the energy gavel striking the crystalline podium echoed through the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Kylara Frost's hands remained steady despite the death sentence just pronounced against her. Thousands of alien dignitaries from across the known universe stared down from their floating platforms, their combined judgment merciless and final. For the crime of concealing humanity's true military capabilities, Ambassador Frost of Earth is hereby sentenced to immediate atomization, announced High Arbiter Vorex, his 7 eyes blinking in different sequences, a sign of pleasure among the Masorian species. Let this serve as warning to all who would deceive the Galactic Council. Kylara stood tall in the center of the massive amphitheater, surrounded by energy barriers that hummed with lethal potential. Just 3 standard cycles ago, she had arrived on Nexus Station as Earth's first representative to the Council, carrying hopes for peaceful integration into the galactic community. Now, she was about to become the first human executed by alien. Decree. I request final communication with my government, Kylara stated, her voice amplified and translated into 387 different languages simultaneously. Vorex's secondary mouth stretched into what passed for a smile. Granted, we are not barbarians, Ambassador. A secure quantum channel opened before her. Kylara knew every word would be monitored, but it didn't matter. The message she needed to send required only 3 words, predetermined long before she had left Earth. Contingency Prometheus activated, she said clearly, then closed the channel. Whispers rippled through the assembly. Most species present had no concept of what those words meant, but the few who had studied human mythology shifted uncomfortably. From her position at the center of the chamber, Kylara could see Ambassador Xylon of the Atraxian hegemony, the delegation that had exposed her so-called deception. Their chitinous faces revealed nothing, but she knew they were responsible. Earth's rapid advancement had threatened their dominance over the resource-rich Orion Spur. Have you any final statement, Ambassador Frost? Vorex inquired, following. Protocol to the letter. Kylara lifted her chin. Humanity came to you in peace. We disclosed our technologies as required by Council law. That our defenses were deemed excessive by your arbitrary standards speaks more to your fear than our deception. She swept her gaze across the chamber. Remember this moment. When humanity returns, there will be no ambassadors, only reckoning. The energy barriers surrounding her began to glow brighter, shifting from blue to blinding white. The atomization field was charging. 12 light-years away, aboard the cloaked observer vessel Cassandra, Lieutenant Commander Davix Reyes watched the transmission with clenched fists. The ship's AI, Iris, had been monitoring the trial since it began. Contingency alert received and authenticated, Iris announced dispassionately. Prometheus protocol now active. All Earth vessels are being recalled from Council space. Defense Grid Omega coming online. Reyes couldn't tear his eyes from the screen as the energy field around Ambassador Frost reached critical intensity. Her form remained defiant to the last second before dissolving into constituent atoms. They've just made the biggest mistake in galactic history, he whispered. Calculating optimal extraction route, Iris responded. All human diplomatic personnel must be recovered before the Council realizes what's happening. As the Cassandra broke orbit around Nexus Station, emergency alerts began flooding in from across Council space. The Atraxians had planned well. Synchronized attacks on human outposts had begun within minutes of the execution. But what the Council didn't know, what Ambassador Frost had successfully hidden, despite months of intensive psychic probing, was that humanity had prepared for this betrayal from the very beginning. Operation Prometheus wasn't just a contingency plan, it was an extinction-level response. Admiral Viara Nishimura stood motionless on the command deck of the UESS Thermopylae, Earth's first Titan-class warship. Around her, the crew operated with practiced precision as reports flooded in from across the galaxy. 57 human outposts attacked. 17 scientific vessels captured, over 4,000 lives lost in the first coordinated strike. Status of the Lazarus Protocol? She asked, her voice betraying none of the fury building within her. Commander Orion Kazuya, her XO, responded immediately. 39 outposts successfully activated shelter systems. Remaining stations? He paused, swallowing hard. Confirmed destroyed, Admiral. Vyara closed her eyes momentarily. The only mourning she could afford. When they opened again, they reflected the cold determination that had earned her the nickname Steel Lotus during the Mars insurrection. Begin Phase 1, she ordered. Throughout, human-controlled space, hidden military installations shimmered into existence as quantum camouflage fields deactivated. The supposedly peaceful Human Federation had maintained a war fleet 3 times larger than officially declared, vessels constructed in secret asteroid shipyards and concealed beneath false energy signatures. On Earth, inside the hollowed-out mountain complex known as Aegis, General Ibrahim Cairo addressed the Emergency Response Council. Representatives from Earth's United Nations filled the chamber, their faces grim as tactical displays showed the escalating crisis. The Council believed they were punishing us for hiding our defensive capabilities, Cairo stated. They failed to recognize that what we revealed was merely what we were willing to lose. Chancellor Elora Voss, the highest civilian authority, leaned forward. Activate the Helios Array. Throughout the solar system, massive orbital platforms that had posed as energy collection stations began realigning. Their true purpose, focused gravitational manipulation, would soon become apparent to the Galactic Council in the most devastating way possible. Meanwhile, aboard the Thermopylae, Admiral Nishimura issued deployment orders to the fleet. Priority. Targets are Atraxian military installations. Secondary objectives include Council communication hubs. We cut off their heads first, then their ability to coordinate. The ship's AI, Apollo, projected simulations across the tactical display. Based on known Council fleet deployments, we can expect significant resistance at these coordinates. Estimated. Casualty rates exceed acceptable parameters. Their acceptable parameters changed when they executed Ambassador Frost, Nishimura replied coldly. As the human fleet initiated faster-than-light jumps, the Galactic Council was only beginning to grasp the magnitude of their miscalculation. High Arbiter Vorex convened an emergency session, his primary speech sacs inflated with alarm. Reports indicate human military assets appearing throughout Council space, he announced to the assembled delegates. Their numbers far exceed registered fleets. Ambassador Cylon of the Atraxian hegemony rose from his platform. This confirms our accusations. The humans concealed their true strength. They planned this aggression from the beginning. From the back of the chamber, a rarely heard voice emerged. Elder Razix of the ancient Cytherian observance, a species so old they rarely participated in council politics, slowly floated forward. "You fools!" the elder rasped, tentacles quivering. "My kind observed Earth for millennia before contact. Their history is written in blood and resilience. They are predators who learned cooperation not through biological imperative, but through choice." The chamber fell silent as the elder continued. "We warned the council secretly. Their kind does not surrender. They do not forget, and they do not distinguish between those who harm them and those who stand aside watching." As if punctuating the elder's words, the primary council communication network suddenly collapsed. Across Nexus Station, power systems failed as invisible. Gravitational waves disrupted molecular bonds in critical infrastructure. The first strike of humanity's vengeance had begun. The Atraxian homeworld of Vexthul burned, not with conventional fire, but with cascading gravitational anomalies that tore apart its continental shields. Admiral Nishimura, watched the tactical feed from the Thermopylae bridge with cold satisfaction as the Helios array demonstrated its terrible purpose. "Third wave complete," reported Commander Kazuya. "Atraxian orbital defenses neutralized. Their primary fleet is in disarray." Nishimura nodded. "Begin surface operations. Deploy the Valkyrie units." Across the shattered orbital perimeter of Vex Thule, stealth dropships released thousands of mechanized combat units. The Valkyries, 12-foot bipedal exoskeletons piloted by human operators, descended through the atmosphere, their advanced neural interfaces allowing operators to feel the alien environment as if it were their own skin. Among them was Major Lachesis Talos, commander of the 7th Valkyrie Division. Her unit had been training for planetary assault scenarios for years, though few believed they would ever be deployed. Now, as her mech slammed into the crystalline surface of the Atraxian capital city, she understood the full scope of humanity's preparations. "Talos to all units. Secure the hegemony archives," she ordered. "Intel confirms the evidence is there. We need it intact." The real reason for the assault wasn't revenge. It was truth. Human intelligence had long suspected that the Atraxians had engineered their exposure to the Council. What they needed was proof of the deeper conspiracy. Meanwhile, light years away, the Galactic Council was in chaos. With Nexus Station partially disabled by the gravitational attack, the remaining delegates had relocated to the secondary chamber on Proxima 4. High Arbiter Vorex struggled to maintain order as accusations flew between species. "The humans must be eradicated," demanded the Zoridian representative, its heat-sensing pits flaring. "They have revealed themselves as the warmongers we always suspected." "Perhaps," countered Elder Razix of the Catherians, "we should ask why. They targeted only Atraxian worlds and Council military installations. If extermination was their goal, they would have struck civilian centers first." Before the debate could continue, the chamber's holographic projector activated unexpectedly. The image of General Ibrahim Cairo materialized before the assembled delegates. "Esteemed members of the Council," he began, his voice steady and authoritative. "I speak to you not as an enemy, but as the bearer of uncomfortable truths." Vorex's appendages fluttered in outrage. "How dare you address this body? Your species stands accused of unprovoked aggression." "Unprovoked?" Cairo's laugh was bitter. "While we speak, our Valkyrie units are securing evidence from the Atraxian archives. Evidence that proves the hegemony has systematically eliminated 17 emerging spacefaring species over the past century, with Council authorization." The chamber erupted in protests, but Cairo continued relentlessly. Ambassador Frost was executed for allegedly hiding defensive capabilities, yet the Council itself hides genocides behind classification protocols. Earth was next on the Atraxian list, our crime being our rapid technological advancement and genetic diversity. On Vex Thule, Major Talos and her Valkyrie units fought through the last defenses surrounding the archive complex. The data they were extracting confirmed everything, detailed plans for the systematic weakening and eventual destruction of humanity, approved by select council members in exchange for Atraxian resource concessions. "The truth will be transmitted to every species in council space," Cairo continued. "The choice before you is simple: reform or destruction. Humanity came seeking peaceful cooperation, but we will not be the 18th species to disappear for the convenience of the established powers." As his image faded, the council chamber descended into pandemonium. The carefully maintained interstellar order of 10,000 years was collapsing under the weight of its own corruption. And humanity, the newcomers, had become the arbiters of its fate. The Galactic Council's emergency session had stretched into its third day. Representatives from over 500 worlds deliberated the evidence streamed continuously from captured Atraxian archives. The data was damning, not just for the hegemony, but for the Council's inner circle that had sanctioned their actions. High Arbiter Vorex had been placed under guard, his complicity in 17 xenocides, now public knowledge. The power vacuum left the council directionless, just when unified leadership was most needed. Earth's military forces held strategic positions throughout council space, but had ceased offensive operations after securing their objectives. Now, humanity waited for the galaxy's response. Admiral Nishimura paced the conference room aboard the Thermopylae. The holographic projections around her displayed the positions of the human fleet alongside potential threat assessments. Representatives from the remaining council factions would arrive within the hour for negotiations. "They'll try to divide us," she said to her assembled command staff, "offer concessions to some Earth nations while threatening others." General Cairo, present via secure quantum link, nodded. "Chancellor Voss is preparing unified terms. We speak. With one voice or not at all?" Commander Kazuya cleared his throat. "Admiral, the Procyon Conclave is requesting separate channels. They claim to have been opposed to the Atraxian agenda from the beginning." "Denied," Nishimura replied instantly. "They watched Ambassador Frost's execution without protest. There are no innocent bystanders in this reckoning." On Vex Thul, Major Talos supervised the final data extraction from the Hegemony archives. The evidence was more extensive than anyone had imagined. Centuries of manipulation, targeted technological sabotage, and orchestrated conflicts designed to keep emerging species weak and dependent. Her neural link buzzed with an incoming transmission from the Thermopylae. "Major, we're detecting unusual energy signatures from the archive's lower levels," Admiral Nishimura informed her. "Possible self-destruct mechanisms." Talos signaled her team to move deeper into the facility. "Understood. Admiral, we'll investigate." What they discovered in the archive's restricted vault changed everything. Behind quantum-locked doors lay preservation chambers containing biological specimens, the last remnants of the species the Atraxians had helped destroy. But more shocking were the stasis pods containing human subjects, abducted over centuries during Earth's pre-contact era. "Admiral," Talos reported, her voice uncharacteristically shaken. "The Atraxians have been studying us for over 300 years. They've been experimenting." As the council delegation's ship docked with the Thermopylae, Admiral Nishimura received the full report from Vex Thul. Her expression hardened as she reviewed the evidence of long-term infiltration and biological sampling of Earth's population. "This changes our approach," she informed General Cairo. "The Atraxians didn't fear our weapons. They feared our potential. The genetic diversity they've been harvesting suggests they were searching for something specific in human DNA." The conference room doors slid open as the delegation arrived, representatives from 7 of the most powerful council species. Their body language displayed a mixture of hostility, fear, and in some cases, grudging respect. "Welcome aboard the Thermopylae," Admiral Nishimura greeted them formally. "You stand in the presence of the species you attempted to eradicate. Consider carefully what terms you are prepared to offer." Elder Razix of the Catherians floated forward. "Admiral, we would be foolish to present terms to you. The Catherian observance acknowledges humanity's rightful grievance and accepts whatever judgment you deem appropriate." The other delegates shifted uncomfortably. This was not how negotiations typically proceeded in council space. "We do not seek dominion," Nishimura stated clearly. "But we will have justice, not just for ourselves, but for the 17 species who cannot speak for themselves." As she spoke, displays around the conference room activated, showing the preserved biological specimens discovered in the Atraxian vault. The delegates recoiled in horror and shame. "This," said Nishimura, "is the legacy of your council, and this," she gestured to the fleet deployment map, "is humanity's answer to it." The Galactic Reformation Conference convened on neutral territory, the terraformed moon of Ganymede in Earth's home system. Representatives from 236 spacefaring civilizations gathered in the hastily constructed Grand Assembly Hall, their diverse physiologies accommodated by adaptive environmental fields. Chancellor Elora Voss opened the proceedings with characteristic directness. We stand at a crossroads. The old council is dissolved. What replaces it will determine the future of our shared galaxy. 3 standard weeks had passed since the revelation of the Atraxian conspiracy. The shockwaves continued to ripple through interstellar society. Some worlds had descended into civil unrest, their populations demanding accountability from leaders who had known, or should have known, about the systematic extinction of developing species. Admiral Nishimura and General Cairo flanked the Chancellor, a visual reminder of humanity's military presence. But today's gathering wasn't about force. It was about forging something new from the ashes of corruption. Humanity does not seek to replace one tyranny with another, Voss continued. We propose a Sentinel Alliance, an interspecies compact with transparency as its foundation and mutual defense as its purpose. From the audience, Zalok Prime, spokesbearer for the silicon-based Litharians, raised a crystalline appendage. Your species has demonstrated remarkable force projection. What assurance do we have that this alliance isn't simply a mechanism for human dominance? Before Voss could respond, an unexpected voice answered. Major Lachesis Talos stepped forward, no longer in her Valkyrie mech, but still commanding in her formal military dress. I led the team that discovered the remains of the Centauri Covenant, the 15th species eradicated by the Atraxians, she said, her voice carrying throughout the hall. Their genetic archive contained a message, preserved against all odds. It translated roughly to, "Remember us in the light of stars we never reached." She paused, letting the words resonate. Humanity has no desire to stand alone among the stars, but we will never again allow the strong to prey upon the developing. Every species deserves their chance at the light. The assembly fell silent. Even Zalok Prime's crystalline form seemed to dim in contemplation. Meanwhile, aboard the Thermopylae in orbit above Ganymede, Commander Kazuya oversaw the analysis of the recovered Atraxian research. Working alongside xenobiologists from a dozen allied species, they had begun to understand the hegemony's obsession with human genetics. It's the adaptive potential, explained Dr. Kiresh, a Valeran neurophysiologist. Human DNA contains unusual redundancies, genetic code that appears dormant but can activate under extreme stress. The Atraxians were attempting to weaponize this trait. Kazuya studied the holographic models with growing concern. They were creating biological weapons using human genetic material? Worse, replied Dr. Kiresh, her bioluminescent skin pulsing with agitation. They were trying to engineer it out of you. Their long-term plan wasn't just extinction, it was ensuring humanity could never evolve resistance to their methods. This revelation added urgency to the conference below. As details emerged, Chancellor Voss incorporated them into the proposed alliance structure. Provisions for genetic sovereignty became central to the draft charter. No species could claim ownership or control over the genetic heritage of another. By the 6th day of negotiations, a framework had emerged. The Sentinel Alliance would establish a multilateral peacekeeping force, with no single species commanding more than 15% of its strength. A transparent governing council would be established, with rotating leadership and public proceedings. Most critically, a remembrance initiative would be formed to preserve the legacy of the 17 extinct species and search for any possible survivors. As the conference approached its final vote, Elder Razix of the Catherians requested the floor. The ancient beings' translucent forms seemed to pulse with internal light as they addressed the assembly. My species has observed galactic civilization for millennia, the elder began. We have witnessed empires rise and fall, but never have we seen such potential for genuine transformation as exists in this moment. The elder's tentacles formed the sacred pattern of prophecy, a gesture not seen in public for generations. The humans call this alliance a beginning. The Catherians recognize it as fulfillment of an ancient prediction. The Breaking Ones will reforge the stars. As the vote commenced, species after species pledged their commitment to the new path. Even those initially hostile to human military action recognized the opportunity for a more just galactic order. The Sentinel Alliance was born. 5 years after the formation of the Sentinel Alliance, the massive research vessel Memory of Frost hovered above a planet designated KG-379, its sensors penetrating the toxic atmosphere to the ruins below. Named in honor of the executed ambassador whose death had sparked a galactic revolution, the ship represented the Alliance's most ambitious project, the Resurrection Initiative. Director Evren Caldera, former xenoarchaeologist and now head of the initiative, studied the holographic renderings with cautious optimism. The ruins matched patterns consistent with the Malorian civilization, the seventh species eliminated by the Atraxian hegemony. Thermal imaging shows underground chambers still intact, she informed the assembled team. Possible stasis signatures detected. Hope was a dangerous thing in their line of work. Previous excavations on 12 worlds had yielded only artifacts and records, precious historical evidence, but no survivors. The possibility of finding living members of an allegedly extinct species was almost too much to contemplate. Admiral Nishimura, now serving as humanity's representative to the Alliance High Council, watched from the observation deck. The Memory of Frost represented everything the new order stood for: scientific cooperation, historical reckoning, and the slim chance of redemption for the galaxy's greatest crime. "Descent team is ready," announced Commander Talos, promoted, after her crucial role in exposing the Atraxian conspiracy. No longer piloting a Valkyrie mech, she now commanded the vessel's specialized recovery operations. "Proceed with caution," Nishimura ordered. "If there are survivors, they've been in stasis for over 70 years. They won't know what's happened." The descent craft pierced the atmosphere, carrying a multinational team equipped with the most advanced archaeological and medical technology the Alliance could provide. Among them was Dr. Lycaios Sevro, one of Earth's leading experts in alien physiology and suspended animation. As they landed among the ruins, the team moved with practiced efficiency. Ground-penetrating radar guided them to a hidden entrance, concealed beneath what appeared to be a collapsed temple. "Detecting power signatures," reported Sevro, his instruments picking up faint energy readings. "Incredibly, something's still functioning down there." The team carefully cleared debris, revealing an ancient security door. Alliance decryption systems worked to interface with the alien technology, drawing on recovered Malorian linguistic databases. Inside the command center of the Memory of Frost, Director Caldera addressed the Alliance observation team, including representatives from 17 species. "We believe the Malorians facing extinction attempted to preserve a portion of their population," she explained. "Based on recovered Atraxian records, the hegemony thought they had destroyed all such facilities. If we're right, this could be the first successful recovery." On the surface, the team breached the final door. Beyond lay a vast chamber filled with hundreds of preservation pods, their surfaces covered in crystalline frost. Status lights on several still glowed faintly. "We have active stasis fields," Sevro reported, voice tight with emotion. "Preliminary scans show viable life signs in 23 units. Throughout the Memory of Frost and across quantum communications to Alliance headquarters, the news spread. For the first time, the genocide might be partially reversed. A species thought lost forever might have a second chance. Admiral Nishimura turned to the viewing window, allowing herself a moment of reflection. 5 years earlier, humanity had stood ready to unleash devastating vengeance upon the galaxy. Instead, they had chosen a harder path, rebuilding what was broken, uncovering what was hidden, and now, perhaps, restoring what was lost. As the recovery team began the delicate process of reviving the Malorian survivors, Nishimura's thoughts turned to Ambassador Kailara Frost, Her execution had ignited humanity's fury, but her legacy had become something greater than revenge. The diplomatic corps now spoke of the Frost Doctrine, the principle that justice required not just punishment of wrongdoers, but restoration of victims. On the planet's surface, the first stasis pod completed its revival sequence. Systems that had maintained life for 7 decades completed their final task. The cover dissolved, revealing a Malorian, a being thought extinct, taking its first breath in a changed galaxy. Dr. Severo activated his universal translator as the being's fore. Eyes opened, adjusting to the light. "You're safe," he said simply. "You've been asleep a long time, but you're not alone anymore." The Malorian's translator took a moment to process before responding. "The hegemony?" "Defeated," Severo replied. "The galaxy has changed. Many species united to ensure what happened to your people never happens again." Back aboard the Memory of Frost, Director Caldera updated the Alliance Council. 23 survivors confirmed viable. Their knowledge of additional preservation sites could lead to more recoveries. Elder Razix, speaking from the Alliance, headquarters, voiced what many felt. Today, the Breaking Ones have begun to heal what was broken. As the Malorian survivors were carefully transported to the Memory of Frost, Admiral Nishimura issued new orders to the fleet. The search would continue, not just for the remaining 15 extinct species, but for any others history had forgotten. Humanity had come to the stars seeking peaceful cooperation. They had found corruption and genocide instead. Their response, after the initial fury, had not been conquest, but reconstruction. Not domination, but alliance. Not just vengeance, but justice. And perhaps, most importantly, resurrection. The galaxy would remember Ambassador Kylara Frost not as a martyr who triggered humanity's wrath, but as the catalyst for its greatest achievement. A new order where no species would again face extinction for the crime of potential. In the observation lounge of the Memory of Frost, Admiral Nishimura watched as the first Malorian survivor stepped aboard, a living rebuke to those who had tried to erase them from existence. The true power of humanity had never been in their weapons or their fleet. It had been in their refusal to accept a universe where the powerful could erase the weak without consequence, and their determination to forge something better from the ashes of what had been broken. Vengeance, in the end, had taken an unexpected form. Not the destruction of enemies, but the restoration of their victims, and the creation of a galaxy where such crimes could never happen again. It was, Nishimura reflected, the most human vengeance of all.